Hello, my name is Sebastian Willard, and I'm doing a presentation on theater from the Ottoman Empire. So, the Ottoman Empire was created by a group of Turkish tribes in the region of Anatolia, which is Asia Minor. The empire lasted for over 600 years, starting in 1300 and ending in 1922, and being placed by the Turkish Republic. In the height of its power, the region, it spanned from as west of Algeria in Africa to where modern-day Persia is. The Ottomans are of Islamic origin, and their culture, it's kind of like a melting pot. They have gotten a lot of traits from Byzantium and Turkish empires in Central Asia. The empire continued. So as the empire grew, so did its culture, and as it reached into Central Europe and where the old Islamic Caliphate is, it adopted a lot of its customs. So society was divided into two different sections. There was the small ruling class and then the working class, which was the majority of the people. To be in the ruling class, there were basically three main rules that they had to follow. You had to support the Sultan, you had to be Islamic, and you had to follow their complex system of the Ottoman way. And then the working class was basically just to expand the wealth of the empire and the Sultan, which they were then used by the ruling class to live lavishly. So there were many different kinds of arts that were in the Ottoman Empire that were absorbed through the conquering of lands. It ranged from literature to architecture, cooking, writing, and then performance and theater. So the forms of art, their literature, they had poetry and prose. Their architecture is a lot of mosques, Muslim mosques, and caravansaries. And then they adopted calligraphy from Islamic culture, and the Ottomans had a special kind of calligraphy called Diwani script, which is like calligraphy and with a mix. It's just even fancier, it seems. They also had miniaturettes, which were miniature paintings that illustrated manuscripts, and there were also tile designs that they were very much into. They had carpet weaving, which they would weave designs into those. They were hung on the walls or in doorways to keep out hot air, or just used on the floor like a typical carpet. Their jewelry was very beautiful and intricately designed. They were known for having very skilled gold and silversmiths. So a lot of their jewelry was ring making, gem engraving, and even watchmaking, which I found very interesting. So on the left is a picture of a 17th century Ottoman cushion cover. That's a typical design that they would use for their carpet weaving and stuff of that sort. And then on the right is an example of tile work. So next is music and dance. It was very prevalent in the Ottomans' society. These were typically put together and The dance was typically accompanied by an instrumental, a makamlar, which is a very interesting and specific type of rhythmic style that the Ottomans would use. Their dance was heavily inspired from traditions of the Balkan Peninsula and Black Sea area and the Middle East too. They are very much known for their belly dancing, which is still commonly practiced today in those modern day areas. Now is into theater. I could find 3 main types of theater that the Ottomans were known for. The first was meta, which was a one-person show. Karagas, which was a shadow play inspired by Chinese culture, and then median, which was an open stage play, which is more traditional to what we would be used to and what we have studied. So the meta was a storyteller, and he would perform for small audiences in places such as a coffee house or just a small building. The plays were about a singular topic had a moral undertone. They always had a good moral for that play. The meta would play all of the characters in the story, and he would utilize props and different voices to distinguish between the characters. So some of those props would be handkerchiefs, umbrellas, and then different head coverings. And these metas would travel from town to town to put on their shows, and the metas from Istanbul commonly integrated instruments into their stories, so they had a little bit of accompanist. The next is Karagas. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but I'm going to go with it. This kind of play is a shadow play, heavily inspired by the Chinese shadow play. Typically, it was one actor who would control multiple puppets and put on the show. The puppeteer voiced the characters. He also gave the narration for the story, and sometimes would sing along and provide his own music. The plays were often just improvised on the spot based on the group, the town that the actor was visiting, so he would make it up for the town to make it more relative, I guess. These plays, too, were often performed in coffee shops and just in public areas. The last form of theater that I could find was median, or an open stage show. This is more like what we have been studying and was heavily influenced by Western theater. It's very much different from the traditional folk theater that was used in the past for the last ones, and wasn't really developed until 1959 with Ibrahim Senasi's comedy play Ser Messi, which was heavily inspired by Molière. So, similar to Western styles, later on, yes, with the median, but up until then, not really. What is it? The first kind of play with the moral undertone, that is very much like original, what is it? Good. Yes. I'm having brain fart. But it's like Western plays with the good moral undertone. And then the Karagas style of plays very much like traditional Chinese shadow plays. Thank you for listening.